Not because they were evil, but because they remembered too much. Before the world learned fear, before death had a shadow, there was a watcher who stood at the edge of light. His name was Azael. Some stories were never meant to be remembered, yet you found this one. In the beginning, angels did not feel. They observed. They obeyed. They reflected light without understanding it. But Azael watched humanity from the veil between realms. He saw a mother scream over a dead child. He saw a man kneel in mud begging for mercy. He saw lovers betray each other and still weep. And something broke inside him. He realized humans felt something angels never could, meaning through pain. So he began to descend each night, just close enough to feel their sorrow, until longing became hunger. Azael whispered into the minds of mortals. Not commands, not lies, questions. Would you still love God if he took everything? Wars began, famine followed, faith cracked. The other watchers felt the imbalance. The gates of heaven trembled. Azael was summoned. The light around him burned hotter than the sun. A voice without form spoke. You seek what you were not created to hold. Azael did not deny it. He spread his wings and stepped forward. The sky tore open. Light collapsed into fire. His wings ignited like paper soaked in oil. Every feather screamed as it turned to ash. He fell for 7 days. Through storms that did not exist yet. Through oceans that had not formed. Through darkness that whispered his name. When he struck the earth, the ground swallowed him like a wound. And heaven closed forever. The crater became known as Varith Hollow. Nothing grew there. Animals avoided it. Even the wind refused to stay. Centuries later, desperate settlers built a village at its edge. They called it Ashmere. They did not know what slept beneath. On the first night, every child woke screaming. They described the same dream. A tall shadow, burned wings, a voice saying, "Let me feel through you." By morning, 3 children were gone. No footprints, no blood. Only black feathers on their beds. Azael no longer looked like heaven. His skin was cracked like dried clay. His eyes burned like dying coals. His wings were skeletal remains of fire and bone. But his voice was beautiful. He did not hunt bodies. He hunted souls that wanted to disappear. And Ashmere had many. He had fallen to feel. But what he felt was hunger. And hunger does not end. Evil does not begin with monsters. It begins with people who believe they have found a God who understands their pain. In Ashmere, they did. And they built him a church. After the first disappearances, fear ruled Ashmere. But not everyone wanted him gone. Some claimed they felt peace when the shadow watched them. Others said their grief faded after hearing the voice. The broken, the desperate, the forgotten. They began gathering at the edge of Varith Hollow. They called themselves the Order of the Burned Wing. They built their church from dead trees and black stone. No windows, no bells. Only one symbol above the door. 2 wings carved in flame. Inside, the air smelled like smoke and iron. At the altar was not a cross, but a pit. And beneath it, they believed Azael listened. His son vanished on the first night. Corvin heard the voice whisper, "Give me what you love, and I will give you peace." So he did. A traveler disappeared. The next morning, Corvin claimed his son spoke to him in dreams. Others followed. They cut their palms and let their blood drip into the pit. They chanted the name Heaven Erased. The ground trembled. and something answered. The voice said, "You have unsealed my hunger." From that night on, Ashmere was no longer a village. It was a feeding ground. Those who served him were marked. Their veins darkened like ash. Their shadows moved when they didn't. They stopped dreaming. They belonged to him. And he walked among them, wearing human skin. When people worship pain, they create monsters. And Ashmere had created a god who still needed to feed. When angels fall, they don't die. They adapt. And when fear is no longer enough, they learn to blend in. Azael could not leave Varith Hollow. Something ancient bound him to the place where he struck the earth. But the cult discovered something worse. He could wear the living. The first was Corvin Hale. They found Corvin's body hanging inside the church. But that night, Corvin walked into his home, smiling. People he touched grew cold. Their voices echoed slightly wrong. Their eyes reflected fire when light hit them. They did not age. They did not bleed. They obeyed the voice inside their skull. Ashmere became a town of masks. Every full moon, the pit demanded more. The cult dragged the weak. The marked watched without blinking. Azael grew stronger. His wings slowly regenerated, but in flesh. A child named Elara survived the pit. She escaped, carrying his mark in her eyes. She ran for miles, but she could still hear him. "You belong to me." And he began to follow. You cannot run from something that wears the world. Some souls are born broken, others are claimed. Elara was both. And the fallen one wanted her back. Elara was 10 when she was dragged to the pit. She remembered the chanting, the smell of blood, the heat rising from the darkness. She felt hands push her forward. Then the voice. Not yet. The pit rejected her. The cult panicked. In the confusion, she ran. Barefoot through the forest, through thorns, through shadows that whispered her name. But even when she escaped Ashmere, he stayed inside her. Her eyes slowly changed. Veins darkened like ash. Animals avoided her. She heard people's regrets in whispers. She could feel when someone was about to die. She was becoming something between. Years later, a priest named Father Malric found her wandering. He felt the cold around her, but he saw a soul still fighting. He hid her, taught her to pray, taught her to resist the voice. For a while, she was free. One night, Malric woke to see a man standing in the doorway. He smiled. "You cannot keep what is mine." The church burned. Malric vanished. Elara was alone again, and the fallen one was closer than ever. Hope does not scare demons. Defiance does. Every prison has a key, and every monster leaves a map to itself. Elara was about to learn the truth behind Azael's fall. After Malric vanished, Elara followed his last notes to a hidden monastery. Deep underground, she found the Library of the Forgotten, where erased names were still written. There she discovered a black manuscript bound in scorched skin. They called it the Book of Ash. Azael was not just a fallen angel. He was chained to earth by an ancient covenant. He could not return to heaven. He could not fully enter hell. So he fed to feel alive and to slowly become human. The book spoke of one who would carry his mark and decide his fate. She who bears the ash in her eyes will either open the gate or seal it forever. Elara realized she was the key. That night, the voice returned, soft tender. You can end this, or you can join me. She felt his wings wrap around her shadow. The monster did not want her dead. He wanted her to choose. The most dangerous battlefield is not heaven or hell. It is the human soul. And Elara was becoming the war. After reading the Book of Ash, Elara stopped sleeping. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt his presence. Not around her, inside her. Her reflection sometimes smiled when she didn't. She began losing time. Hours vanished. And people she passed later claimed she spoke to them in a voice that was not hers. Her abilities grew. She could touch someone and feel their greatest regret. She could sense when Azael fed. The ground would vibrate. The air would burn. And she knew. He was growing impatient. A secret order called the Veil of Light found her. They had hunted fallen beings for centuries. They believed only one thing: Elara must die. She escaped. But now she was hunted by heaven's servants and claimed by hell's angel. The voice whispered, "They will never accept you. Only I understand you." Elara stood between two worlds, and neither wanted to let her live. You cannot save both light and darkness. One must burn. Some places remember what happened there. They whisper through walls. They breathe through the streets. And Azael had built himself a new feeding ground. Elara followed the pull of his power to a ruined city buried in fog. Once called Blackmere. It was abandoned after a mysterious fire that burned for 7 days. Now the streets echoed with voices that were not there. Shadows moved in windows with no glass. This was where Azael was gathering strength. Beneath the city, inside a collapsed cathedral, was his nest. Walls covered in burned feathers. Thousands of names carved into stone. Every soul he consumed, remembered here. Deep inside was a chamber of broken mirrors. Each reflection showed a different version of Elara. Dead, possessed, queen of ashes. Azael spoke through them. All paths end with me. The cult had spread, across cities, across borders. They were gathering for one final ritual, to open the gate fully. And Elara was the key. When echoes grow loud enough, they become a scream. Some endings are not explosions. They are openings. And when the gate begins to breathe, the world listens. On the night of a blood moon, the Order of the Burned Wing gathered in Blackmere. Thousands stood in silence. Every one of them marked. Every one of them empty. They formed a circle around the ruined cathedral. At the center, Elara. Bound. They cut their palms. The blood ran like rivers into the cracks of the earth. The sky darkened. The ground trembled. Azael rose, no longer broken, no longer hiding. His wings burned with living fire. The air tore open behind him. Not heaven, not hell. Something in between, a place of endless hunger. He turned to Elara. Open it. Her eyes burned black. The world waited. When gods kneel, creation breaks. Every story ends where it began, with a decision. And Elara's would decide the fate of both worlds. As the gate widened, a second presence filled the sky. Not light, but silence. A voice without warmth spoke. Child of Ash, your existence is an error. The veil of light appeared, their forms burning like stars. They raised their weapons. Elara stood between two annihilations. Azael turned to her. For the first time, his voice trembled. They will erase you. I will make you eternal. She saw his memories, his envy, his fall, his endless hunger. He was not evil. He was empty. She felt both worlds pulling at her soul and understood. If the gate opened, everything would burn. If it closed, she would vanish with him to save the world. Something must be forgotten. Some endings are not light. They are silence. And silence is where forgotten angels go. Elara looked at Azael, at the gate breathing behind him, at heaven's hunters ready to erase her. She stepped forward. She touched his burned wings and whispered, "You don't need to feel anymore." She opened herself, not to the gate, but to him. She took his hunger, his emptiness, his pain. The gate began to close. For the first time, Azael screamed, not in rage, but relief. His form cracked. Light bled from his wounds, and he faded. Not into heaven, not into hell. Into nothing. When the dust settled, Elara was gone. Black Mirror collapsed. The cult fell lifeless. The world forgot. Except for whispers. Except for dreams. Sometimes people still feel a chill. They hear a soft voice say, "You are not alone." They don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. Angels can fall, demons can fade, but hunger always finds a new name.
This is Storyloom by Goodness, where stories are not just told, they are felt.